Welcome to these Sci-Fi guys. I'm your host, as always. I am Dave. That's my name. Yes. Sorry, it's been a goofy day. I'm feeling goofy. Well, with me, as always, is John and Chad. We actually have a very special guest with us today. It's a good friend of all of ours. It's Shane. Shane, just say hi. Tell everybody about yourself. Just something real quick.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Shane, and I am actually an administrator at a local elementary school, and I'm also an associate music pastor, and I'm a huge movie buff, and I am just very happy to be with these guys. They're all friends of mine, and looking forward to talking movies. So thank y'all for having me.
Now, when he says he's an administrator, it means he's a principal. You know, he's one of the bad guys.
Assistant principal.
Yeah, I mean, he's my boss. He's not one of the bad guys. I assure you. I assure you. He's
well,
great.
thank you, John. I appreciate that.
You had to say that, John.
Yeah, you had to say he's your boss.
No, listen.
No, we're off the
there
clock.
May have been
we're
a time when I may, but like, truly one of the great ones. So yeah, I'm not getting paid to say that, unfortunately.
We don't get paid for this podcast. We just have fun.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Earlier today, we are going to be talking about the movie Pacific Rim. Was done back in early 2000s, if I remember right.
2007?
2007, something
2007?
like that. Yeah. We'll be talking about it. We'll be giving our points. Let me get, while we're doing this, I got to get the questions that I texted you guys.
Those might be important.
That would be important. There it is right there. Okay. Hey, there they are. They're not in our normal one. Okay. And since we're talking about questions, let's go and go there. Okay. First question I'm going to go with for you guys. All right. Please explain to me this whole thing about the drifting, this Neuralink. How are people actually compatible? I mean, you know, he was fighting with the girl, and like in 2 minutes he could say, "Well, we're compatible." And then, you know, the Iblis, I can't think of his name. You know, he was just like, "Well, I'm a blank slate. I can be compatible with anybody." You know, I mean, how does that work? What do y'all think? I know they kind of explained it in the movie, but I want your opinion on it. If did they explain it well enough or not? Someone jump in.
I definitely think they did an okay job of explaining it, but ultimately I think it comes down to what really seems like people skills or your ability just to get along with someone. And I think obviously some genetics played a part of that because, you know, you had the father-son dynamic in there, you had the brother dynamic. So there are plenty of family dynamics that I think made it easier to drift. But ultimately, it definitely just seems like if you can relate to people or at least understand the person you're going in with, then you're a little more susceptible to being compatible. But outside of that, I mean, it did okay. But I definitely think it comes down to the relationship you can build with the person. Maybe not so much what you already have going on.
Shane, what do you think?
I agree. I think when I was watching it, one of the big key things that got me was that when you looked at some of the earlier footage when they were talking about the Jaggers and the Jagger Program and everything at the beginning of the movie, one of the things that they talked about and showed was that a lot of there were some sibling things, kind of like John was talking about. Of course, the father-son element, and I think it's just a compatibility piece, and I think that is one piece that I wish they would have taken more time to kind of dive into, was kind of the process of the selection and kind of, just to be honest, the history of the Jagger program total. Because the beginning did touch on it, but I think they could have done a little bit more. My wondering, and kind of a plot hole, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Oh, we're not doing plot holes yet.
Oh, sorry.
We're not doing plot holes yet. That's later on.
That one.
It's an easy trap to fall into. We all do.
It's a very easy trap, especially with this movie.
I will keep that one.
Yeah, Chad. What? How about you? What's your opinion on this whole drifting compatibility?
They could have done it a whole lot better. I had a question. How do you know you're compatible by fighting in your life? Why not just? I know this. Oh, it's got to be left brain and right brain. I get that, but why is it? So why couldn't they just explain it a little bit better? They should have done better, and that's plot hole for me.
We'll talk about plot holes later. You guys know that. That's later on.
I wasn't the
I
only
know.
one, though. I want that
Yeah.
noted. I wasn't the
I
only one.
know, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I thought that the way they explained it was gobbledygook because, I mean, I have 3 children, and I'm sorry. 2 of them are brothers, and they can't stand each other. I'm sorry. There's no way they would be able to be compatible. They'd be in each
Or
other's heads fighting all the time.
father son.
Even father son. I mean, there'd be. I'm sure he'd be like, "Really, you're gonna think about that at a time like this?" Or whatever. I just that whole thing kind of just lost it there. Well, hey, we're on drifting. Let's go ahead and keep talking about that then. Would it not make more sense to remotely pilot these Jaggers kind of like a drone, or like, the military has UAVs, UASs, where they're flying Predators, they're flying these aircraft far away. Wouldn't it make more sense to be doing that with Jaegers?
Well,
Do you think it's a feasible solution too with the problem that they've been having, with the problems that they have?
No, I don't think it would be a physical solution because you look at almost the final battle, the battle scene with the 2 class 4 or class 5 came out. That one of them shot an EMP pulse and knocked everything out. Like not that one, that newer one out. Here comes the one that's nuclear reactive powered and come in for the save the day. I think you got to have a man one. You put in a unmanned, you're risking everything for it.
But the Jaegers, I mean, not the Jaegers, the kaiju pretty much left the Jaeger alone. It was circling around the 2 of them after it did its EMP pulse. It just kind of like do 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 do, and it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't attacking it or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody else got any points on that? Shane?
So to me, I see Chad's point, and I kind of to echo along with that. I think that a drone type of scenario might be something that could have been done, but when you watch specifically how they fight, how the Jaegers fight and the fighting moves, I think that would be something that would be a little more difficult on a drone aspect. I think if you were just like doing like an aircraft or something like that, kind of like a military thing, I think that would be easier. But to kind of get those responses and those reactions and things I think, like Chad said, kind of doing how they did it with the right hemisphere, left hemisphere, I just think it might work better to kind of I don't know. I just think it works better. Maybe.
John, you got any points? Any questions?
For me, just looking at it from a technology standpoint, the Jaegers, I think, are definitely harder to control remotely, just from the sense that they are so big. You'd have to have a lot of cameras just to make sure you're going where you're trying to and doing the things that you're trying to do. And so I think remotely it would probably require a bigger team to control more parts or at least check in on stuff, which is fine. But I think also in that there'd be more that could go wrong because remotely, I mean, even if you think you lag just a little bit, I mean, there goes your robot immediately. And as massive as they are, costly, that'd be ineffective. And plus, in a fight, you want to have as much of an advantage as you can have. And I think any possibility of, lagging out remotely would kind of damper that a lot. Whereas in person, you have more visual because they're looking down from the robot itself, as well as the assistance of AI in the robot, kind of understanding where they're headed. And then also just, again, being there and one movement to a direct movement in the robot being a lot quicker than something that would happen remotely. Although I get your point remotely, because then you lose a lot less pilots, although you might lose more robots. But I think at least where technology stands now and the way we communicate, there's just too much room for lagging.
Okay.
You clearly disagree.
I disagree because remember I was in the military and I know how drones work, and if they could do drones across the world, pretty much they would be able to do this. I just and then again, you wouldn't lose your people, you wouldn't get them have radiation poisoning, you wouldn't get all this other stuff. It would just be a cleaner, better way. But I get what you guys are saying. Sometimes you've got to be there in person to see the reaction of the enemy or whatever. So
yeah.
John, are you froze up or is it my computer?
No, I'm not.
Okay, your picture just looks frozen on my end.
I also just sit still sometimes.
Oh.
I've tricked y'all before on that.
Maybe that's all it was. Okay, does the movie ever state how many Jaegers there were?
I know they state how many versions are they, like Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but doesn't say how many that they built. Because you saw the Gypsy Rose or the Chris Helms, the Charlie Helms one, the second one he had, both of his was Mark 3s, the one with dual core nuclear.
Right.
Yeah.
The nuclear.
And then there was they went up to the Mark 5. Yeah.
Mark 5 was the father-son duo.
Yeah. There was one point whenever they were going to the Hong Kong base and they were first going in there. They did mention that a bay just like this would hold up to 30 Jaegers. So depending on how many bases they had, if they were full, that is something that you could definitely go with. I know also when they were when they did the flash forward where it was the 5-year and he was in front of the council and he was talking to him. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That part of the movie? They showed that there were, I think, 3 or 4 Jaegers that were destroyed, and then they were taking, what was it, 4 more that were going to Hong Kong? Is that right? Am I remembering correctly?
Pretty much. I mean, I only remember 4 at the end. There was the Russian team. There was the Chinese team. There was the Gypsy Dagger, and then there was
the Russian
group. That was it. Those were the only 4 that were left.
Yeah.
So, well, the only reason I ask is, so if at one point they had 30 of them and they knew where the rift was and they knew roughly when it was coming out, and we're talking about, not kaiju, level 5s here. We're talking most of these are probably level 1s that are starting out, 1s or 2s or whatever. Why didn't they just station a bunch of them around the rift? Because they know where it was at and just take them out when they came out at the first time,
Be too easy.
I know it would be an easy movie, but I mean, we're talking about reality here. If there was a reality, I'm just saying. I mean, do y'all think that would be a feasible way to do that, rather than wait for them to come on land? I know that they have a limit. They have limited maneuverability and everything under the water. I get that, but it just seems like that when you if you were to have, let's just say you had 5 of them down there at all times, you have 30 of them, let's just say, and you rotate them out every 8 hours, so why would?
Or, I mean, just in general, build them to sustain that. Yeah, I definitely see that being an option. I mean, because they definitely built them to be around water, but not sustained underwater. But I mean, they definitely could have. I mean, we've made submarines for years at this point, and especially in their world. Like, I mean, they definitely could have made a machine that could last underwater after a while. So I think they definitely could have headed that direction instead of where they went, but they didn't. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is a movie. It is a movie.
Well, you got to remember, they did say they did try to go down there and patrol the droughts and try to shut it. So that option was there. I think they just failed at it and put it back on the drawing board until somebody figured out how to get something down there to them.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
No, they just decided that they want to be like Trump and build the wall. Yeah.
Well, the wall didn't work.
And the wall didn't work.
Not
You
one
know?
bit.
The wall didn't work.
Okay, let's go on to this last question here. All right. So, in this particular scenario that they were, that there was these kaijus and there's a rift in the ocean somewhere that these monsters are coming out. What would humanity's answer be to this? Would we do the same, similar to what this movie did? Would we build giant robots to fight them? You know, and I know it's a Godzilla reference, but he'd say, "Let them fight." You know, would we do something like that, or would we find other ways? You know, what do y'all think?
I wonder if our first solution would be to go on a nuclear assault. Is kind of what I wonder. Is if you have something that catastrophic, and of course, I think we would kind of handle the first one or two kind of the same way they did with fighter jets and different things like that, trying to do it like you see in any movies like that, Godzilla or anything like that. But I wonder if we figured out that there was a trend on where they're coming out, where the drift is, if there would not be a nuclear option or assault or things like that. I like the movie kind of showed. I don't know if that would be necessarily the right way to go about it, but I kind of feel like the status that we're in today, that might be something that would be thought of.
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Jeff.
I would say I definitely agree with that. I definitely see us going well, let's just nuke them to death and maybe they'll quit showing up. The other thing, I don't necessarily see us going the giant mecha route until like we're fighting in space. I definitely see those being more space capable because that just seems like where we're headed anyway in regards to that specific idea. So I think we would try to nuke the kaiju, and then if things got so bad that there's just so much radiation that we can't anymore, or we see that it's not working over and over, I honestly think, at least for most of the citizen base, I think they would start evac and try to go ahead and try to colonize, the moon, Mars, somewhere, and just get off of Earth and be like, fine, they can have it. I think I could definitely see that happening at some point too. But that would be post failing the fight, because for some reason we humans were going to fight first. So that's just kind of where we are. So
Yeah, about the same. I see just going fight to fight. This is my home. I'm going to fight for it. You got to come get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a little bit of all of you guys. I think that one, I agree with John. We would probably not build giant mechas to fight them initially. Like you said, it would probably be nuke them a couple of times. If that didn't work, keep a whole bunch of subs underneath there and just blast them with, because they're coming from the water, so at least blast them with torpedoes or whatever until that didn't work, and then start figuring out other ways to defend Earth up until the point where we're ready to say, okay, well, we have to give it up.
Well, do we have any surplus underwater mines? Just
True.
We are going to fix this movie, so maybe that's a thing we can do. Who knows? But well, with that being said, let's go to our next segment. Everyone's favorite. Now you can say your plot holes. So I've got about 20 of them. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to say them all because you guys are going to be like, oh. So, but no. Let's just go around the picture, at least on my screen. I'm going to go start with you, John.
All right. So I definitely think fix some of the designs of the Jaggers.
It's just plot holes, not fixing.
Yeah, we're doing.
Yeah, I know, but the plot hole to me is like there are just so many vulnerabilities that I don't think had to be. Like the EMP blast taking out the digital ones. Like, why is that an option? Like, even on Earth without kaiju, EMPs are a thing. Like, it definitely should have been able to withstand that, or at least had a backup to fight somewhat. We've already talked about the drifting a little bit and how it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you can or you can't. That completely doesn't make sense at all. And then in general, I definitely feel like we should have figured out the solution to actually fixing the breach a lot sooner than it happened in the film. It
I
just
agree.
it seems like we would have come up with that or figured something out a little sooner than that. Those are my major.
Those are hey, that's pretty good. Chad, how about you?
He hit him. Where he hit about drift. Explain more about the drift. Like why they're there. But then he fits the actual hole where they're coming out of in the first place. Like if you know it's coming out this one hole, why not just I'm gonna every time something comes out, we're just gonna send something down.
Mm-hmm.
So really, we should have just built a big beaver Jaeger.
Yeah,
we'd have been set.
Yeah.
Okay, Shane, how about you?
So basically, my two, they've kind of covered them. So I don't understand why, like Chad was talking about, with the actual where they're coming out, where the rift is. Why do you not go and build an underground base that is right there by it, so that as things come out, you have the resources there to attack or whatever like that, whether it's underwater crafts or whatever, just to take them out as they come, or to research how to actually close it. You have something that's right there, number one. Then the other thing was as far as the drifting, where you're drift compatible and everything like that. The fighting thing didn't make sense to me. That was the big thing. I was like, how does this really show how they are drift compatible? They didn't really go into that, and to me, that would have been something very, very helpful to know, because they're spending time on this. They're getting candidates. How do you select the candidates? What are their qualifications to go through this fight training for drift compatibility? That was a big thing for me, was how do you know somebody is drift compatible besides they're just their blood relatives?
Yeah. Okay, y'all ready for 20 of them? No, I'm not going to give you 20 of them. But I got a few that just they bugged me. You know, with all of the weaponry and all that you had at your disposal, why are the Jaggers just punching them all the time? And then at the end they realized, oh, I have a sword. Let's use it. You know,
I'm in full agreement. And the number of times they slammed kaiju that are coming out of the water back into the water, I'm like, they're fine in water. Quit slamming them back in.
Yeah, that doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Let you guys talk about EMP. I got to throw it out there. Just because something is nuclear doesn't mean it's not affected by an EMP. It's run by computers. The computers were affected by EMP. You looked at the screen that they were all looking at. It was huge. All of that was computers. The EMP would have affected all that. That was just bad writing saying, oh, the EMP didn't affect it affected everything except for the new modern helicopters that were flying the Jaeger out to there.
Fair point.
How come they didn't get affected? You know,
visual flight rating only.
You can't run a helicopter without a computer. Those, I mean,
it was only affected X amount of feet around it. So,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, again, okay. One of the big ones that really bugged me, and I think I'll just end with this thing is, all right, the rift only allowed the aliens to go through it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The escape pods get through. There was no stuff wrapped around the escape pods. And why did we blow up the nuke on their side? I thought it had to be like in the middle. But because we blew a nuke up on their end, it severed it. Again, to me, the way they explained it was they had to be halfway through and then they would have to detonate it.
I mean, on the computer screen, they did kind of make it seem like they were in the middle, but they definitely weren't based off of the visuals.
No.
They were fully in the other world.
when y'all get off here this podcast, and those of you out there in podcast land, I'm going to tell y'all another podcast you need to go look at. It's How It Should Have Ended. Right? It's a cartoon one, and they have Pacific Rim. It's hilarious. All right.
Okay.
Just saying. Go watch it. I don't want to spoil it with you or anything, but it's very funny. Okay, let's go to our next segment. All right, this segment we're going to fix or improve this movie. What would you do? You are the person that's in charge and says, you know what, there's a lot of plot holes, or there's this, or there's that, and I want to make it better. So we're going to start with you, Shane. What do you think?
That's a really good question. I think that you need to do a better job of explaining, taking time. Honestly, because the movie is not very long. What was the runtime on the movie?
2 hours, 11 minutes.
2 hours, 11 minutes. Why don't you take a little bit longer, like take it to 2.5, and actually use some of that time to go back into some of the things we were talking about, like explaining the drift, kind of going back through kind of the history of it leading up to it. I just think doing things like that really would have possibly fixed some of these plot holes. Then the other thing I would do is before you even build the Jaggers, kind of like what I was talking about, get something down there to where the rift is and actually start doing some research on it versus just trying to wait for something to come up and attack it.
Okay. I can see that. Chad, how about you?
I would take the fight scene out. Like, you trying to get the rift, trying to figure out.
Wait a minute, you want to take all the fighting out? Then what?
No.
movie would this be?
I'm saying the drift, the compatible drift. Hey, here's your candidates who we think that you can drift worthy. You take a fight in real life, see if you bond with them. Why not just, hey, let's put them in here, see if they actually drifted in a simulation.
Or a medical procedure or something,
Yeah.
you know.
Or something like that.
Hook to break things up.
So, and that, do the same thing, like put something closer into near the rift. First line of defense is be there. If something's coming out, let's stop it in the tracks there, not let it get to a city.
I like that too. All right, John, how about you?
Well, I mean, they fit a lot of what I would hit, so I'm going to keep it simple with, honestly, I'd probably split it up into episodes and make it a series and really give it some time it deserves. And if I'm going to make it a series, then me personally, I'd also turn it around. We could definitely make this another anime. But even forgoing the anime, I think it would do very well as a series, because I think it would give you time to go through and like the boot camp experience and how the drifting works, and like you could build up to where you start to get into the kaiju and fighting, and what happens between the time of, you know, our main character and the 5 years later. Like, you could definitely build that part up in a series too, and then come back in. So I think it would work very well as a series.
You know, I never thought about doing it as a series. I like that idea a lot.
I do too.
It would, make it a 5-part series, or even a 13 episode or whatever, and you don't have
It'd definitely be a limited run.
Yeah. I mean, and with the last one could be, the big climax of everything, and then that's how we get down there and take them out and what have you. So I like that. I like that idea a lot. Mine's a little bit different. One, when we do the fighting, I don't want to just see Jaggers up there. I want to see the Air Force blast in the, with a bunch of aircraft or those helicopters. Instead of just dropping them, let them fight on, there. Let them be harassing them while the Jaggers are doing other stuff, and get rid of the whole water stuff. I mean, I can see if you want to wait till let them come out through the water, but big giant robots can't walk on water. I'm sorry. I didn't say it as a plot hole, but they can't walk on water. So, get them on the land, kind of like the old Godzilla B movies were, and fighting and all that,
Let them fight.
And make it. I mean, and make it feel like there is more danger than there is. And then also, I would get rid of those. I'd get rid of the guy from the Back to the Future from and the two scientist guys. I mean, honestly, I didn't think that added a lot of story. It just seemed like it took away from monsters fighting. You know,
Yeah,
that's what everyone loves about this movie. It's hey, we want to see the big monsters fight. The monsters and okay. With that, our next segment. Okay, in this segment, we're going to be rating this movie on a scale of 0 to 5 lightsabers. Since I'm the one that picked this movie, I get to start. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I do enjoy it. I think visually, it's fantastic. Just the different designs. Although I don't understand the one with the triplets and then having the third arm behind it. I mean, if anything, you should have made it like a scorpion tail or something instead of two arms on one side and one on the other. Hey, let's go rewind it. Put that back into the fixing and improving section also. But yeah, no, I visually thought it was a fun movie. The kaiju, I did kind of get confused on if they're all the same DNA, why do they all look different? And why is one pregnant? I didn't mention that in plot holes, but if they're being cloned, why is one being pregnant? I mean, again, that's make you want to scratch your head. So with those things, I'm going to give it a solid 3 lightsabers. So John, let's go with you.
I mean, I'm kind of right on track with you. Plot holes definitely take it down a few notches, and there's a few details we talked about that definitely could have stepped it up. So where I would be exactly with you, I step it up just a little bit because it just hits a niche for me that I love dearly, and that's giant robot fighting. And for that alone, I give it a whole extra point. So that puts me at a 4.
Oh, okay. Chad, get your rating.
With all the plot holes, the graphics, all that was good. I'm in between y'all two, 3.5.
All right, 3.5. So Shane. Now we're gonna follow up since you're our guest. What is your rating?
So I kind of echo what has been said already, and I'll be honest. I'm a little biased with this movie. It's one of my favorites. I love the movie. I think for pure entertainment value, it is big robots and big monsters fighting. I just think it's fun. I do think they did a good job with the overall storyline. I think they did a good job with it. I think, like we've all talked about, there are plot holes in there and things that we would fix to make it better. But I think overall they really did a good job with it. So I am actually going to take John's rating and I'm going to up it a half, and I'm going to give it a 4.5.
All right. So we went all the way from 3 to 4.5.
I definitely think that wins the widest range of ratings.
Yeah, I think. Let me look real quick. Yeah, most of us are pretty consistent. Like, we're all pretty close to each other. There was only one. What movie was that? Inception was no, not Inception. Mars Attacks was like the only one that we were really way off on. Chad gave it a 0, I gave it a 1, and John gave it a 3.5. So,
and Mars Attacks
I give Mars Attacks a 3.5.
Yeah,
yes, you did.
Y'all did not make sure I was okay that day.
Well, at the end of the year, we are going to let you retcon 1 or 2 of your movies. So if you need
that'll be a retcon for sure.
Change it, you can change it. But yeah. Hey everyone, you out there in YouTube land, YouTube land. Put in the comments. Tell us, what is your rating? What do you think of this movie? And with that, please contact us. The easiest way is right down there in the YouTube comments. Go ahead and put your comments in there. Give us a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're also on all the social media networks, Instagram, Facebook, and X at TheseSciFiGuys. Or you can email us, TheseSciFiGuys at gmail.com. All right. That's it for the show, right? No, we've got to talk about what we're going to do for the next episode. Next one. John, do you know what our next one is? You're the one that picked it.
It's District 9, right?
It is District 9. Yes. Not workplace safe. What's the word? Yeah.
NSFW, not safe for work.
Not safe for work. Yeah, it has a lot of language. So just be forewarned, everyone. So, but yeah, District 9. That was definitely a different movie from what we've seen in the past. So it'll be interesting to do that. Shane, thank you very much for coming on the show. The episode,
thank y'all for having me.
Whatever we call it.
Well, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, good. Yeah, and then maybe we can come back some other time that you know when you're like, well, if you do this movie, I wanted to be there. Although sometimes it is funny. You think you love a movie, and then like last week, I thought I really loved Scott Pilgrim versus the World until I looked at it with the critical eye and looked at plot holes.
You came to my side of that movie.
Yeah, Chad said from day one, I hate this movie. I hate this actor. So, yeah. All right. Well, guys, until next time.
Crash and burn.